Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, guys. How are you today? Alhamdulillah. Today I will introduce myself. My name is Nesya Faizan Urfani. I'm from Universitas Mulia Kudus. I'm with my friends.
My name is Anastasia Aji Parwanti. I'm from Universitas Mulia Kudus, and my student number is 045.
Comprehension is student provide and key of the success in running the process of education. The majority this kind achievement is done by student through reading activity. This kind that is gained by the student is not only from the process of teaching and learning in school, but also through the reading activity in daily life. Therefore, the technique of reading comprehension becomes the important part in mastering and enhancing the student knowledge. The interview with some students in a senior high school. In the interview with some students in senior high school, they said they facing up difficulties in analyze the implicate and explicit information of the text. Besides, many students have not enthusiasm in reading class. The teacher only use monotones technique, namely conversational technique. In the reading class, the teacher presents a subject in the textbook and asks students to read reader silent or loudly, and then the student have to answer the question based on the textbook. Consequently, the reading lesson becomes monotonous and bored. They show bad attitudes. The students are not able to indicate good score in their reading class. The first, by contextual question technique, readers can identify important words in reading and can in fact mathematic prediction about their relationship in identify important words in reading and can in fact mathematic prediction about their relationship in one another. The first, it means that using contextual quizzing technique can be made as the way of teaching to get some information from reading text. Before students read, the teacher asks the student to find prior knowledge, make a prediction, and wonder about big ideas that are not answered in the text. Contextual quizzing technique can be a focus and previewing device for expanding vocabulary and for developing a level of comprehension, including critical and creative reading. Therefore, using this technique will help the student to enlarge their thinking in the other world. Contextual quizzing techniques make students to be good reader who can comprehension reading text easily. At the second, it is words. Comprehension doesn't just happen. It requires effort. Readers must intentionally and purposefully work to create meaning from what they read. According to Crawford, accused that reading comprehension is a dynamic, interactive process of construction meaning by combining the reader's exciting knowledge with the text information within the context of the reading situation. You can comprehend reading text easily. At the second, it is words. Comprehension doesn't just happen. It requires effort. Readers must intentionally and purposefully work to create meaning from what they read. According to Crawford, accused that reading comprehension is a dynamic, interactive process of construction meaning by combining the reader's exciting knowledge with the text information within the context of the reading situation. Background. Reading is one of the first skills in English. This skill is so important in English learning because it develops the mind. It needs understanding the written word is one way the mind grows in its ability. It means reading is an interactive process between a reader and a text which leads to automatically reading fluently. And then, according to Webgraph 1991, the argues that reading can be seen as an active process of comprehending, where students need to be taught strategies to read more efficiently. For example, questions from the student for example, questions from context, define expectation, makes inference about the text, scheme ahead to fill in the context, etc. Mostly in senior high school, students cite that they have some difficulties throughout the student life of the most in reading, lack of the interest in reading comprehension, and the student lack of understanding to find the meaning words of context. The teacher only use when technically, namely conventional technique. In reading class, the teacher presents a subject in the textbook and asks students to read whether silently or loudly, and then students have to answer the question that follow. Consequently, the reading lesson becomes monotonous and boring. Students lack motivation to read. Even if they read, they show negative attitudes. Reading cannot be separated from comprehension. That is why there appears a lot of problems. Dealing with reading comprehension, many English learners find it difficult to understand the English text very often. They get stuck because of some problems such as unfamiliar procedure for developing abilities in contextual questioning. can be incorporated in class reading, presentation, or special exercise before we go further analyze contextual quizzing. We must consider a few preliminary questions concerning this skill. This question certain to the usefulness and to the trainability of the quizzing skill. Thus, based on the problem above, the teacher should have the student reading comprehension. It is important for the teacher to master reading techniques, and some teachers only have briefly how to read student in the classroom. So, most of what is experienced by student when learning media by the teacher is less relevant and less qualified, so that the student at the time of reading many do not know how to pronounce techniques as well as how to read them correctly. So that most students get bored quickly and have almost no interest in learning, where as teacher don't want to try to change the media or how to teach in class, and I'm sure that when the teacher provides the technical material about reading that is correct and interesting, that then at the same time student will listen and not get bored quickly, and student, if there is a lack of understanding, then spontaneously he will ask the teacher. The next, we will. The next is Anastasia. We give to presentation.
The next material, research significant. The first, for the student, by learning to understand how to read, student can take some information to identify problem in mastering reading comprehension. So the student can learn technique to read properly and correctly by looking for additional information, including searching on the internet or looking for other book in the library as a reference, and at the same time learning. If anyone does not understand, can be asked by the student teacher. And for the teacher, where the teacher will help student to deal with problem in mastering how to read student in class, and the teacher will provide additional media when explaining in class. So the teacher will provide additional media such as LCD, laptop, and then the teacher also adds reference in the form of worksheet and textbook. Then the teacher practice in detail and train students such as pronunciation, vocabulary in the classroom continuously until students can after the student if they have mastered and understand and understood. The technique for how to read the teacher will give a segment in group, and the student will discuss will will age group. After that student which of other student can discuss according to the segment given by the teacher. How much percentage of student reading ability and the way of understanding which what has been given by the teacher. And the next methodology. Reading is an important aspect in learning or teaching a foreign language process for academic studies or personal development. Learning should master two main skills. To be successful reader, they must be able to decode the individual word on the page and to comprehend the text, because word decoding and reading comprehension are correlated skills. Reading is not merely a receptive of picking up information from the page in a word-by-word manner. Rather, it is a selective process and characterized as an active process of comprehending. Effective reading is rapid, purposeful comprehending, flexible, and gradually developing. The student who cannot read and comprehend, and those who might not know how the process takes the text meaningful by making use of appropriate strategies. Linguistically speaking, there are a number of particular textual characteristics influencing the comprehension of text. In addition to those textual characteristics, metacognitive strategies are used in information processing theory, so indicate an executive function of strategies that involve planning for learning, thinking about the learning process as it is taking place, monitoring of one production of comprehension. It can be concluded that reading is a complex process to obtain ideas or meaning from a text which is symbolized in written or printed language. Comprehension in reading means that when someone reads, we must understand what he read. It can be cited in reading comprehension between the author and the reader. The author expresses his ideas in the form of written language, and the reader has to understand the meaning of the text intended by the author. To able to achieve the purpose of reading comprehension, one should have some basic reading skill as follows. The first, literal skill, getting the central thought and main idea, recalling and recognizing of fact and information, finding answer to specific question. And the second, interpretive skill, drawing conclusion, generalizing, deriving meaning from context. And the third, critical skill, determining the greater purpose. And the fourth, creative skill, applying information into daily life. Contextual quizzing. Contextual quizzing is the most important skill used by most readers in attacking new words. It is closely related to comprehension, and this is one of the most practical skills students learn. Contextual quizzing. Context clues have several uses in reading. The four use named below are of special importance to read a foreign language. The first, context clues help reader to derive the pronunciation and meaning of a known word from it is used in sentence. The second, context clues also help to determine the pronunciation and meaning of an unknown word from it is used in a sentence. When context are used for the sentence and then quizzes at the pronunciation and meaning of the unfamiliar word from the way it is used. The third, context determine how the accentuation of similar words used in different contexts determine or which different grammatical usage affect their meaning. The fourth, context provides clues to the meaning of words that vary according to the subject area in which they are used. Okay. The next advantage. The first, pause and the reader is not disturbed read activity. The second, help improve understanding in reading because the reader remains focused on reading the contents being read. The third, helping to build vocabulary for them to remember what predictable. The fourth, make more reader enjoy reading because it does not need stop intermittently. Conclusion. The first, the teacher should find out the effective technique in teaching reading comprehension. The second, the students should be good learner. They should involve themselves in the classroom and pay attention to this teacher. The third, students should have motivation in learning English. The fourth, the students should respect their teachers, fully attention to the lesson for supporting the learning process running well. The five, the teacher should use many alternative strategies in teaching reading to improve student reading comprehension. Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.